All right, everyone. This right here is just crazy. Just when we all thought we had seen everything, something new has come out that might change the whole love and hip-hop story. Chrissy Lampkin and Mendeecees Harris? Yes, they're messy and confusing. Connection just got exposed, and it is a lot worse than anyone thought. How did these two even get involved with each other? This story has everything: drama, secrets, and betrayal. And now Yendi? She is completely losing her mind, and honestly, it makes sense. Something here does not feel right, and we have the proof. There are leaked messages, secret meetings, and quiet talks about something so shady that even the biggest fans are shocked. Could this be the biggest betrayal of all? Was it planned from the start? Or did everything just happen by surprise? You better grab your popcorn, because this tea is hot and it is getting even hotter. By the time you hear the full story, you will never see Chrissy and Mendeecees the same way again. So get ready, because this is about to get very messy. Things are getting really messy now. We all know Chrissy Lampkin as the strong, no-nonsense woman who always speaks her mind on love and hip-hop. And then there is Mendeecees Harris, Mr. I have changed, but somehow he always ends up in the middle of some kind of drama. But what if I told you there is way more going on between these two than they want us to know? What if I told you there is proof that Chrissy and Mendeecees have a past connection that nobody saw coming? And let me tell you, it is not a good look. First, let us ask this: how do Chrissy and Mendeecees even know each other? Because if we are being honest, they do not really cross paths on camera that much. But behind the scenes, that is a very different story. Back in the day, before Mendeecees ever got with Yendi Smith, he was already moving around people who were very close to Chrissy. We are talking about late-night business meetings, shared friends, and yes, even some favors being passed around. Do you remember when Chrissy and Jim Jones were going through all that money trouble? There were a lot of rumors back then. People were saying that money was moving in some shady ways, and now some sources are asking, guess who was in the mix? The truth is starting to come out, and it is not looking good for anyone involved, helping make those shady money moves disappear. Yes, it was Mendeecees himself. And wait, it gets even worse. Everyone knows that Chrissy and Jim always had a very up-and-down relationship. We saw her get down on one knee and ask this man to marry her on national television. And what did he do? He kept avoiding marriage for more than 10 years. But what if that was not just Jim being Jim? What if there was another reason he was acting so strange? A reason that has to do with someone who has a habit of getting too close where he should not be. Are you still with me? Because this tea is about to reach a boiling point. Here is the real shocker. People are saying Chrissy and Mendeecees were not just connected over money. Oh no, some sources say there were whispers about late-night meetups, quiet hangouts, and behavior that looked very suspicious. Now look, I am not here to make up stories, but let us be real. We are all here for the tea, right? And here it is. An anonymous source, someone very close to the situation, just dropped some jaw-dropping details. They said there was a time when Jim Jones was out of town for a few weeks. And guess who was seen around Chrissy during that same time? You guessed it, Mendeecees. Mendeecees was seen slipping in and out of Chrissy's old condo, and it just happened to be late at night. You already know where this is going. Yes, it was Mendeecees. And before anyone says, oh, maybe he was just handling business, let me ask you this. Why were these so-called meetings happening so late? And why was nobody supposed to know about them? Now let us talk about these business deals, because when it comes to Mendeecees, his business always seems to have a little something extra on the side, if you know what I mean. And here is the wildest part. When Yendi found out about all of this, she completely lost it. Everyone knows Yendi does not play when it comes to her man. She will stand by Mendeecees no matter what, and she has done that many times before. But this time, even she could not ignore the red flags. Sources say that when Yendi heard about the secret connection between Mendeecees and Chrissy, she confronted him right away. And let us just say, it did not go well at all. Yendi started asking questions that Mendeecees could not answer. She brought up receipts that he thought were long gone. And the more she looked into things, the more it all stopped making sense. And this is where everything started to change, because Mendeecees did not clearly say no to any of it. He did not deny anything straight up. Instead, he tried to play it off. He hit Yendi with the classic, "Why are you bringing up old stuff?" He told her she was overthinking it. He said it was not what she thought, that people just love to talk. But here is where he messed up. When Yendi asked him about those late-night visits and the timing of those shady transactions, he did not say she was wrong. He just got real quiet. And if there is one thing we all know, it is that when a man gets quiet while being asked direct questions, that usually means something is not right. And we cannot forget this part. Chrissy and Yendi have had issues. For years. A long time ago, Chrissy made it clear that she did not respect Yendi at all. She called her messy, said she was rude, and even accused her of trying to control Jim Jones's career. So now, finding out that Chrissy and Mendeecees may have been doing something shady behind Yendi's back? That just adds more fire to an already burning situation. Oh, you already know Yendi was not going to stay quiet, and yes, she went off. She was not about to let this slide. Not at all. She came in with all the energy, with the proof, and ready. For anything. And from what people are saying, Chrissy was not ready at all. Now picture this, a private event. Only special guests invited, cameras everywhere. Yendi walks in calm, but that kind of calm that means trouble. The kind of calm that says, "I have something for you." She walks straight up to Chrissy, looks her right in the eyes and says, "So, how long have you been messing with my husband?" "Baby?" The whole room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Chrissy was shocked. She tried to laugh it off, saying Yendi was overreacting. But Yendi was not playing. She pulled out screenshots of money being moved. She pulled out text messages that looked way too close for just business. And when Chrissy still tried to act like it was nothing, that is when Yendi dropped the real bomb. She said, "I have someone who saw the two of you together, and they are ready to speak." And that, my friends, is where part 1 ends. But trust me, it only gets wilder from here. Part 2, and yes, we are going even deeper into this madness. Stay with me, because this scandal is just getting started. For the first time ever, Chrissy looked stuck. The same woman who always had a quick comeback, who always stayed 10 steps ahead, looked like she did not know what to say. She looked completely caught off guard. Yendi was not there to play games. She came with everything, screenshots, timestamps, and most important of all, someone who had seen it all with their own eyes. Now, we all know how Chrissy acts when she feels cornered. She does not fold easily. So what did she do? She looked Yendi right in the face and laughed. Yes, laughed. Like the whole thing was just one big joke. She said, "Girl, you must be really bored to be making up stories like this." But Yendi, she did not move an inch. She did not blink. She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, and said calmly, "You might want to hear what this person has to say before you start laughing too hard." And just like that, the room got quiet again. You could feel the tension, because everybody knew something big was coming next, and that is when the real chaos began. The whole room went quiet. Again, Chrissy's face changed, but only for a quick second. Still, Yendi saw it. That small flash of nervousness, and that was all Yendi needed to know. She was getting close to the truth. Now let us talk about this mystery witness. Who is this person? And how do they know so much about Chrissy and Mendeecees' so-called business? Well, this is where things get really messy. The person is someone who used to work with Mendeecees. An old friend. Someone who helped him move money and set up meetings. Let us call him Dre had been around Mendeecees for years. He knew how Mendeecees did things, who he talked to, where he went, and more importantly, who he spent time with. When he was not with Yendi. And guess what? Dre had proof. He had real receipts. Now hold up for a second, because at this point, Chrissy was still pretending like she did not care. She was sipping her drink, acting like none of what Yendi said mattered. But then Yendi hit play on a voice recording. And baby, when that audio started playing, the whole room lost it, because clear as day you could hear Dre's voice. And he was saying how he personally saw Mendeecees and Chrissy together, alone, more than once, at places that had nothing to do with business. Dre said he had personally driven Mendeecees to Chrissy's place more than once. He even said that Mendeecees would tell him, "Keep this low-key, I do not need anyone watching me. And then came the part that truly shocked everyone. Dre said that Mendeecees told him straight up, "Chrissy has something over me. That is why I keep going back." What? That was the moment everything shifted. The tension in the room became so heavy, you could feel it. Chrissy's face went from calm and confident to completely cold. But Yendi, she was loving every second. She leaned in and said, "Do you still feel like laughing now? Or should I keep going?" That is when Chrissy snapped. She jumped up so fast, her drink spilled everywhere. She got right in Yendi's face, pointing her finger like she was ready to start a fight. "You really think I need to explain anything to you?" she said. "Over some fake voice message? You are reaching, Yendi, and it is embarrassing." But here's the thing. Yendi was not just talking. She came with real proof. She pulled up a text message thread, one that had been sent to her by someone who did not want their name revealed. And it was a conversation between Mendeecees and Chrissy. Now, the texts were not super obvious, but the way they talked, it did not sound like just business. It sounded way too close, too personal. The kind of messages that make you ask questions. The texts were not exactly romantic, but the way they were worded, it was very suspicious. Mendeecees asked, "Are you sure everything is good? No one is asking questions, right?" And Chrissy replied, "You know I got this. Just keep doing what you need to do. I am not worried about anything, as long as you keep your end tight." Now tell me, does that sound like just business to you? Let's not forget that Mendeecees and Jim Jones had never really gotten along. So why would Mendeecees be handling anything for Chrissy unless there was something more going on? At this point, Chrissy was done playing it cool. She turned to the crowd, shaking her head like Yendi was out of her mind. "Y'all really believe this nonsense?" she said. But here is the twist. Not everyone in the room was defending Chrissy. Some people started looking at her differently. Some were whispering, "And you know how it goes. Once doubt starts, it spreads fast." That is when Yendi hit her with the final blow. "If all of this is a lie, Chrissy, why do you look so uncomfortable right now?" "Boom!" Chrissy snapped. She grabbed her purse, rolled her eyes, and stormed out of the room. And you know what happened next. The internet went wild. Everyone started talking. The story spread fast, and it was everywhere. Things went crazy after that. Clips of the confrontation leaked within hours. Blogs picked it up, Twitter exploded, and people started asking real questions. Was there any truth to what Yendi was saying? Here is the thing. Mendeecees did not say a word. He did not deny anything, and he did not try to clear his name. He just stayed silent. Now, if we know one thing about Mendeecees, it is that he loves to defend himself. So why wasn't he saying anything now? Unless he knew he could not defend himself. At this point, Yendi had enough. She packed up her kids, left the house, and according to sources, stopped answering his calls. Now, this is not just a petty argument. If what Yendi was saying is true, that means Mendeecees has been lying to her for years. And it also means Chrissy has been moving behind the scenes this whole time. But here's the biggest question of all. What exactly does Chrissy have over Mendeecees? Remember, Dre said Mendeecees told him Chrissy had something on him. And that, my friends, is the part that has everyone shaking their heads. What could Chrissy possibly know? Why is Mendeecees still following Chrissy's rules? And why hasn't Jim said a word about any of this? Y'all, we are just starting to uncover the truth. Trust me, it gets even deeper. And in part 3, we are going all the way there. Stay tuned, because the story is far from over. At first, people thought maybe Mendeecees and Chrissy had an old relationship that Yendi didn't know about. Maybe before Jim, before Yendi, something was going on between them. But that theory did not last long. Why? Because new tea started to spill, and this part shook everyone. A so-called industry insider, someone who claims to have been around for years, came forward with some information that completely changed everything. Here is what they said. Mendeecees allegedly did some business back in the day that was not exactly legal. Now, we all know Mendeecees already did time for drug trafficking. That is public knowledge. But apparently, there is more to that story than we knew. According to this insider, Chrissy was actually connected to that business. Mendeecees and Chrissy were connected to some of the same people, and not just from the outside. Chrissy was involved in some of Mendeecees' business too. Now, let's pause for a second because if that's true, everything changes. This is no longer just about sneaky text messages and secret meetups. This is about Chrissy having real legal power over Mendeecees. That means he cannot just cut ties with her. If he does, she might start talking, and Mendeecees cannot afford that. Let's rewind a bit because this part is wild. Apparently, back in the early 2000s, before Mendeecees got locked up, he and Chrissy crossed paths in a way that nobody expected. Chrissy has always been deep in the streets. Y'all remember, she was moving with some real powerful people back in the day. Sources say she knew too much about certain operations, including Mendeecees. When he got locked up the first time, he probably thought he was leaving all that behind. But Chrissy didn't forget. And more importantly, she kept receipts. Because according to this insider, Chrissy knew things about Mendeecees that could come back to haunt him. So, this so-called insider is saying that Chrissy has information that could really get Mendeecees in serious trouble. That's why he can never fully walk away from her. He owes her, and apparently, she never lets him forget it. Now, this next part is about to blow your mind, because people started putting the pieces together and realized this isn't the first time Chrissy used information as leverage. Back in the day, Chrissy wasn't just Jim Jones's girl. She was in the mix with some of the biggest names in hip-hop. Let's just say she knew things that people didn't want getting out, and that's why she was able to move the way she did. People weren't going to cross her because if they did, she'd start talking. And now it looks like Mendeecees is just another person caught in her web. Here's where it gets even messier. Have you noticed that Jim Jones hasn't said anything? Not a tweet, not a statement, nothing. And let's be real, Jim isn't the type to stay quiet, so why is he acting like he doesn't see what's happening? Some people are saying he already knew about Chrissy and Mendeecees' arrangement, and maybe he doesn't want any smoke. Think about it. If Chrissy has dirt on Mendeecees, who's to say she doesn't have dirt on Jim too? And that might be why he's keeping quiet.